Okay, we're going to start into chapter 3, and we're going to get into some concepts that deal with law here. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the idea or the term that we have called rule of law. We as a nation operate under the concept that in order for us to have an orderly society, we have to have set standards, we have to have set rules, and that are followed by everyone and that are equally enforced. And that is essentially what the rule of law means, is that we equally enforce these rules to everyone and across all political spectrums, across all class spectrums, as well. The other thing about law that I want to talk about are basically the types of law that we have, and I'm going to only mention three of them. The first type of law that I want to mention is what we call criminal law. Criminal law is what we think about when someone commits a crime. It's something, you go speeding down the highway, you get pulled, that's a criminal law. You have somebody who breaks and enters a house, that's a criminal statute, it's a violation of criminal law again. We also have what's called statutory law. Statutory law simply means that it's law that has been written down. It's actually codified. Matter of fact, North Carolina's laws, if you go online to the North Carolina General Statutes, you'll find statutory law. It's written down. The final one that I'm going to mention is what's called case law. We typically think of case law as being law made by judges. In other words, the Supreme Court comes in, they make a ruling on search and seizure. They tell police what they can or cannot do. They, in essence, create law in that respect. Along with this, the legislature, whenever they define a crime, also specifies a category of crime that that particular action falls up under. And we have three categories. We have felonies, we have misdemeanors, and we have infractions. I'm going to give you some general definitions to follow here. A felony, generally, is a crime in which a person can do at least 1 year in prison all the way up to the death penalty. Now, that doesn't always hold true. There are some felonies in North Carolina in which a person can do less than a year, and even some in which a person can do only probation. A misdemeanor is a lesser crime. It's typically one in which a person can have a fine all the way up to 1 year imprisonment. An infraction is typically one in which a person just has a fine or probation. You go speeding down the highway, you're going 7 miles an hour over, you're probably going to get a fine. Don't wear your seatbelt. That's worth a fine. So those are the major categories of crimes that we find. And again, the legislature is the one that determines whether or not a crime is an infraction, whether it's a misdemeanor, or whether it's a felony. To have a crime, we also have to have three other things. One is what we call mens rea. That means an intent. The intent to commit a crime is defined by the statute. The legislature tells us what the state of mind is. We also have to have an action. In other words, there has to be some overt or action that we do that actually causes an offense. And then we have to have the concurrence of those. In other words, they have to occur together. Let me give you an example. Thinking about killing somebody, i.e. having an intent, but not going through with it, is not an offense. Thank goodness a lot of us would be in prison probably. On the other hand, if I'm driving down the road and someone jumps out in front of my car and I can't stop in time and I hit them and kill them, well, I've got an action, but I didn't intend to. So you've got to have a concurrence of the action and the intent in order to have a crime. In the next video, we're going to talk about the defenses to criminal actions.